This episode is brought to you by Cumberland Valley National Bank, CVNB, the bank that cares about you and your mental health. With their secure online and mobile banking services, you can easily manage your money no matter where you are. Whether you need to deposit a check, pay a bill, or transfer funds, you can do it all with just a few taps on your phone or computer. CVNB has a full-service branch in Louisville at 1325 Magisterial Drive off Old Henry Road, or visit cvnb.com to learn more. CVNB, Bank Better. Member FDIC.
Welcome back to Connections in Flight. I'm Erika Paramore.
I'm Sarah Mizuguchi.
Join us as we have another meaningful conversation about navigating our current life flight. Hi.
Hey.
I feel like I haven't seen you in a long time.
You haven't.
I mean, time warp.
I think this is the longest that we have gone since we started.
I know.
So,
I hope we know how to do this.
I know. I've been gone. So
Where'd you go?
I went to Japan.
Oh, gosh.
I've been gone for 2 weeks and I'm back.
Do you have family over there?
My husband does, but we didn't see any of his family.
Okay.
They're distant relatives.
But your whole family went. Your kids.
My husband and my 3 kids. And we traveled with another family. It was a big trip. It was, the big trip of the year, if not 2 years. We've been trying to go for a couple of years, but I just got back. And, it gave me a lot of food for thought being on vacation. So I'm here to talk about it.
And, so what'd you bring back in your carry-on that you want to talk about today?
So in my carry-on is tea. I'm a huge tea drinker.
That's a beautiful container.
I love this brand of tea. It's the Republic of Tea. I love tea, and I don't often drink caffeinated tea, but I'm living on caffeine right now.
What's the flavor?
This is called the Princess Peach Bellini tea. It's with the crown, so it's got a picture of Princess Di on there. But I'm jet lagged. It's crazy, so jet lagged like never before. So I've been living on like caffeine alternating with melatonin. And while we were there, I was living on like beer and donuts. So I'm just like a total mess, but I'm here for it.
What's the time change?
13 hours.
That takes a while to adapt.
I thought I was back, but I'm not quite sure today. So I'm teed up and I'm ready to go.
Oh, good. I like that. That's great. Well, we have a word of the day, right?
Yes. So I picked the word of the day, just kind of reflecting on my trip. And the word of the day is escape.
Oh, intriguing.
So
escape. Do you want me to tell you my initial?
Please. Yeah. Tell us.
It went to the fight, flight, or freeze thing. It's like how we escape a panicked feeling or a fear.
Nope.
No,
I don't think so. I may have tricked you. I may have got you. I think I'm taking it a little bit in a different direction.
I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go.
Let's go.
Thank you to BetterHelp for sponsoring this episode. BetterHelp is the world's largest therapy service, and it's 100% online. With BetterHelp, you can tap into a network of over 30,000 licensed and experienced therapists who can help you with a wide range of issues. To get started, you just have to answer a few questions about your needs and preferences in therapy. That way, BetterHelp can match you with the right therapist from their network. Then you can talk to your therapist however you feel comfortable, whether it's via text, chat, phone, or video call. You can message your therapist at any time and schedule live sessions when it's convenient for you. If your therapist isn't the right fit for any reason, you can switch to a new therapist at no additional charge. With BetterHelp, you get the same professionalism and quality you expect from an in-office therapy, but with a therapist who is custom-picked for you, more scheduling flexibility, and at a more affordable price. Get 10% off your first month at betterhelp.com/connectionsinflight. That's better, capital BETTERHELP.com/connectionsinflight.
So the initial reason I came up with the word escape is because obviously I was on vacation, and I don't use the word escape and vacation as the same thing. But while I was on vacation, I was reading a book. It's called Hello Beautiful by Anna Napolitano. She's quite a famous author. I always go to the reviews of the book after I've read the book, or like read maybe what people have said in a book club. about the book or what the questions that came up. So I was reading that the book was about, can love save someone? Can a love alone save a broken person?
Mm.
But I did not take the book like that at all. The way I took the book was what people do to escape, how people escape their problems.
Okay.
So there's a character in the book, the main character, he escapes his sad life by playing basketball. Then there's another character in the book, and she escapes by what I saw to be kind of being a workaholic. Then there's another character in the book who escapes by just always being in a book. So I was thinking about what people do to escape kind of reality, which led me to think about vacation. I'm not proud of this, but there were many years in my life where I lived for vacation. Like my whole almost world was like, when is my next vacation? And I only had 5 weeks vacation. So it would be like as soon as I was wrapping up one vacation, I was already like panicked about, when am I going on another vacation?
Well, and it reminds me of the acceptance episode we did when you got back from your vacation, how hard that was for you. It was like everything coming to an end that you've been looking so forward to.
This one, I just started wondering, why do we have to escape our real life at all? And that's what led me to come up with this word. I wanted to talk about, and this is not just living in the now, but this is how can we maybe even live in a daily calm or a daily peace or a daily practice of meditation or gratitude, that we don't feel like we have to constantly escape our real life.
The psychological term for that is sort of that emotional resilience. Emotional resilience is sort of like tolerating pain, like feelings, sensations. But in addition to that, I think what you're saying about the calmness is the psychological flexibility. Like like that's more of a cognitive shift of like changing our focus, changing the way how we talk to ourselves about something. But they're very integrated. I mean, I think that's what's so cool about it. But I think you're exactly right. When you say, why do we have to escape our life? Is it for you personally an emotion that you're experiencing in your life, or a situation outside of yourself? Or can you be more specific to that? Like what you notice about what you are escaping?
No, actually, I don't really know what it is, except maybe my like real life, or that my life seems really hard. And the reason that this came to me, apart from just being on vacation, reading this book, and then reading the book reviews, and then thinking how I took it all the same way. I will say, the last couple of days of the trip with the kids, I was like, okay, what's next? Where are we going this summer? And even my oldest was like, Mom, I hate it. I hate it when you start planning a vacation and we haven't even finished the one that we're on.
Interesting. And
I think my kids are psychologically healthier than I am.
That's great.
But I did think to myself, like, why am I doing this? Why do I already feel like vacation is the answer to life's problems? And then I went down a rabbit hole of Googling the origins of vacation in the modern world.
What came up? What did you find out?
So, of course, people have been vacationing for millennia. It's all the way back to the Romans, wealthy Romans, vacate for pleasure. So when America first started, a very puritanical belief system, there was no such thing as vacation. You worked 6 days a week, and then you had the Sabbath, and you went to church, and that was your day of rest. Then it talked about how, which does make perfect sense, my parents are in their 70s, so when that age was growing up, their parents had survived the war, the Great Depression. They had seen a lot of things to feel more like we want to celebrate life, and we value this time away. So vacation was like seen as family time. And then it talks about the dip in the 70s with the recession and oil and gas and all these kind of crises and unemployment. and how vacation really became something for more wealthy people.
Mm-hmm.
But whenever I was reading about vacation, it was like pleasure, family time, which sounds really fabulous, but I don't know, it's not always roses, at least for my family.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess I just wanted to ask, what is the purpose of vacation, and when is vacation healthy and when is maybe using vacation not healthy?
Right. No, it's a fascinating topic because the thing about vacations, a lot of times it's the first day you're there and the last day you're there that you remember the most if you look back on how you felt during the vacation.
I've never heard that.
And I think that some of it is about,
Oh my God, that's so true.
you know, what are you connecting to on vacation? Is it really escaping, or is it adventure? Is it time with family? Is it, do you have a type of vacation? It sounds like you like to, when you say plan a vacation, you're doing things, you're seeing things, you're experiencing things. Is that accurate?
Maybe half and half.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe half vacations are planned with lots of activities, and then half of vacations are we just go to Florida and we have zero plans.
Mm-hmm. When you say we, it's with your family typically. Because I think of your job too, especially now traveling as a doctor, you're not in town every day. I mean, it may be that it's also the way you connect to the people you're with through those experiences. And there's adrenaline in vacations too. Like you said, it's not always roses. It can be scary sometimes, or just when you do look forward to it and you only have 5 weeks, or you spend a lot of money, and the hope of what you want it to be is also a big part of that.
Well, and then something else that happened on vacation with the kids that I did want to bring up in terms of all just like escape and everything's going to be great. We're not in real life and everything's perfect. When you're on vacation and you have spent a lot of money and you've made these plans and you're using vacation days, and someone that you're with hates it. Or is like, why did you make us do this? Or, you know, Mom, we don't even want to do this anyways. Like,
how'd you handle that? Did you get your big green ball of string out?
I had packed a ginormous ball of yarn and I tossed it to them. No, I did stay green. I don't even remember how. I didn't yell. I actually just thought I got to talk to Erika about this because I'm not even really sure. You can't make someone feel, you can't control someone else's emotions. Or,
do you know what about it they hated? I'm using kind of air quotes around that word.
I think it was maybe when we had to get up early mornings and leave early mornings, and there was like a definite planned itinerary where, you know, you have to be at breakfast at 8. The bus is picking us up at 8:30, and we're going to, say, an art something. Like, but it's once in a lifetime.
Well, that's the thing. And I think that and I don't know if I'm answering your question here, but if it may not feel fun in the moment, but when they look back on what they learned and saw and can connect to in the history or art class in college, or it'll be interesting how their reflection of that time or that vacation may change.
But that has to be completely normal.
Oh, for sure. I mean, we all been there. It's not every vacation is fun.
No. I mean,
it's important.
Now that I'm thinking about it, there were some times on the vacation where I didn't want to do something.
Yeah.
I made myself.
But it's also, did you all do any meditating over there or anything like that?
Oh my God. So funny you should ask.
Well, because I know we've talked about mindfulness, and as in my head, I'm thinking in my work where there's friction in the brain is when the change is happening. And so what you're saying is that they're exposed to a whole new thing, maybe something they don't want to do.
Oh, I
Even
love
though
this.
you know it's important. It's not just focusing, like we've done, like being the now and the mindful and the grounding and all that.
This is somehow different than that, though.
This is different. And that's why I was about to say it's the mindfulness and everything is lovely, but it's when there is friction in.
I'm writing this down. When there's friction in the brain, what did you say?
So if you have a left hemisphere, right hemisphere, right, in our brains. And we've talked about like the frontal lobe is like the last part of the brain where the logic and language is. That midbrain is limbic system, and then that reptilian brain is amygdala, fight or flight, kind of survival stuff. But if you think about left and right hemispheres, they're talking to each other. They're integrating. And where we feel a lot of emotion, if we have too much, like if we're in an overly stimulating, loud airport, and you look at an fMRI, what's happening in our brain, it may have a lot of red activity. And if we want a more calm state, we want to do more like breathing, focusing on the different parts of ourselves to kind of quiet that down. But if we're ruminating in our head, left brain, thoughts keep getting stuck, we want to connect to more of an external kind of perception or focus, like visualizing waves just lapping or putting our thoughts on clouds and watching them float away. But going back and forth between those two kinds of focus, like a refocus, that's where neuroplasticity happens. But it's not comfortable. Like, you know how when people meditate, they say, I don't know how to do this. I'm not good at it. You know, it's like this, that means it's happening. It's like every time a thought comes up and you notice it without judgment, you're meditating. You just watch it float away.
I want to get back to this when neuroplasticity happens, because this is just so important. When it happens, when we are challenging ourselves in our brain, when we're feeling that sadness with and how we handle it. Or
so when your son said, I hate this vacation, that feeling of hate, a neuron in his brain lit up and it connected to circuitry in his brain. And if, even though he hated that, then he had a moment where he like had a surprising laugh or a tasty food or something, another neuron lit up and sent a signal down the circuitry. So it's like all that neural circuitry is changing. And that's another word for neuroplasticity. It's like the activity flow in the brain. It's all these little neurons are lighting up and sending, I like to think of them as like a string of Christmas lights.
Right.
You know, like each light bulb is a neuron, and then there's a wire, and then another neuron, then a wire, and then another neuron. And that is, we want lots of those. But if they get tangled up or the kind of disorganized, that's where we get stuck. So if it's like the hate of the trip is like nothing, you know, that turns into ruminating thoughts.
Right.
That Christmas light is going to get tangled. But we want other ones over here that he can also lean on so that they can integrate.
And not just my kids either, because they didn't hate the trip. They hated some moments of it. Even it's a trip with a lot of activities. It's hard. But it is funny, and I don't think this is just my teenagers, how and maybe they're just more honest, but how they can go from I hate this activity to once we get there, oh, this is so awesome. I remember this specific with a museum. Like, it's like, we don't want to go, don't take us to another museum. And then we're doing something at a museum and it's like, oh, and I can see it. And we don't even have to say something.
Exactly.
But I feel that too.
But I know, but we all do. But I think that what you're saying though is it's like the hate is the resistance, because maybe I don't know what it is, or I don't know it's going to be interesting. But the resistance to going to something I don't know is going to be worth it. And then to experience something so positive. Think of that as a Christmas tree strand of lights.
Right.
One neuron was hate, but it connected to something really positive. Even if he didn't say it, it happened in his brain. And that shift is his neuroplasticity growing.
Okay, that sounds so lovely. But what about when it's opposite? When you're looking forward to something and you're excited, and then you go and then you hate it.
But what's the it?
I don't know. And it could be anything. Say you're going to have a dinner and you think it's going to be your favorite food.
Okay.
And you get there and you're surrounded by people. You're not having a good conversation. So so exactly what you just described, the beautiful journey to a bad to a good. But what about when it's good to bad?
So that is where more of that mindfulness helps with
that. So does that not develop neuroplasticity?
It does, but here's how. So it's not just a negative experience of like, I wanted this dinner to go well, and then it didn't.
Or in a date or anything. It could be anything.
But it's about what's this feeling of disappointment telling me about myself or what I can expect out of life. You know, if it's like, yeah, that's disappointing, but I can handle it. Or I'm doing the best I could, but there was at least this blank. Then we get, then the circuitry doesn't stay in a negative loop.
So even that's developing
Correct.
Something.
So you're taking a good feeling, and then it's like, how are we judging ourselves? Are we, I knew I shouldn't have come, you know, what's wrong with me? I never have fun at these things. I'm just going to, it's like it could go in a negative loop, or it could go into just noticing the disappointment. And that happens sometimes.
Right.
And, at least I met one new person or whatever. It's like, how do we talk to ourselves about the experience? And that openness to how we meet that feeling has a lot to do with kind of our emotional resilience.
The neuroplasticity part, I only learned the word neuroplasticity. I'm not even sure it was a year ago, but I feel like now it's literally like everywhere that I see.
Did you love it?
Oh, I can't talk about it enough, and I want it. I want a lot of neuroplasticity.
Well, and you can even talk to your kids about what that is, because there's something kind of empowering about like, when it's hard, here's what's happening. It's like, remember we talked about the emotional gym? That's what we're talking about.
Okay, so this is great, actually, because now I'm really thinking about the word escape and how I went on vacation because I didn't actually, this vacation was great. Like, I wasn't trying to escape anything. This is all actually very happy. But just this whole, like, I need to escape my daily life, and so I need to go on a 7-day vacation. If you have more emotional resilience on the daily, you develop this neuroplasticity. You have.
So is escape like you're like in danger? I mean, escape.
No,
I just wonder what that connotation
escape for me basically means leaving my daily reality. I guess maybe leaving responsibilities, leaving my, hard job, picking up dog poop.
But it's funny you say that, because just going back to the meditation thing,
I do want to go back to that.
But that's what meditation is. Like, if you're saying, I can't handle my daily life, I've got to get out of here. That's more of that fight or flight, flee kind of response. But if it's like, I'm going to just like let my day go and escape into this like place where I have relief or calmness, that's what meditation is. So even going busy work to a vacation that's calming or creatively stimulating or whatever, that is the same thing that experience is giving you in your brain is what meditation is giving you in your brain. It's a shift, right?
It's funny that you're bringing up meditation because I did meditate on this trip. I have never meditated. I think I've toyed with it. I've wanted to do it. I think I've wanted to do it and read about it and watched other people talk about it so much. I can't even remember if I did it or not. It's like the Mandela effect. Like, did I meditate or did I just watch an Instagram reel on meditation?
Right.
Because I've watched
it's
so many.
Much more mainstream now.
Yeah, seriously. Like, I don't even know that I've done it, but I definitely did it on this trip.
Tell me.
Okay, so the first half of the trip was with Bam. The second half of the trip was with myself and just a friend, which was just amazing. And we did some spiritual stuff, including we spent the night at a Buddhist temple.
Oh my gosh.
And
what?
Yeah, just amazing. Our tour guide called it Disneyland for Buddhists. So,
oh my gosh, that's a dream.
I'm probably going to butcher the name of this place, but it's called Koyasama. It's on top of a mountain. It's where a Buddhist headquarters is.
Oh my gosh.
So there's some hotels, but you can also stay in Buddhist temple, like in a Buddhist temple with the monks.
Were you nervous?
Yes, I was very nervous. I was really also nervous about the vegan dinner for good reason, actually.
Oh, you got to say.
What? Okay, so we went to bed. This is crazy. When we woke up, the morning in the Buddhist temple, it was the morning that Louisville had a shooting. So we started our day with that. Yes, deep breath because big deal.
Yeah.
So we had to regroup. When we were in the middle of Japan on a mountain, we don't even have Wi-Fi. So
did you know your kids were okay? Your family was okay?
Yes.
Okay.
So we had cellular service, just like we weren't on computers. So we had that, and then we're like, what we can't do, what are we going to do? So we went to a Buddhist prayer service.
Perfect.
At 6 a.m. Heard the chanting, and it took me a minute to get into it. But there is something about, I never heard this kind of experience. I'd done some sound bowls before and learned how when it gongs, you listen to it all the
It
way
resonates.
to the end. Like that, when I learned that, that did help me a lot. The one time I did sound bowl, I've only done it once. Always want to do it again though. You listen to the whole thing, and with the chanting, it didn't end. I mean, someone was chanting, but you get in this. I mean, it'd be interesting to know what's happening in your brain. Like
well, a lot of it's vibrations, right?
I wonder.
Yeah, and it's sort of similar to breath work, in fact, like how you can upregulate or downregulate depending on the speed and pitch and frequency.
Okay, it's really weird you said that, because we did that in the morning. Then we did we had been doing this whole crazy Buddhist cemetery thing, and I felt really zenned out. And I said to myself, I'm going to meditate on this trip, or I'm going to do some breath work, because I'm embarrassed to say this. Since we had our episode when we talked about breath work, I still haven't done it.
It's okay.
I tried to do it, and I got the app, and then I chickened out.
It's okay.
But I made myself a promise after that day, and then just what had happened, in our city and just everything. I got on my Calm app, which I already have, because I love to go to bed to the rain. Even when I'm not having any anxiety, I just love that rain.
Good.
So I started the 10-minute daily meditation. And the first one I listened to was about space. And you do this thing and you're listening, and then you have a few minutes where there's just nothing but silence. And like I do, because I'd been to the Buddhist things, went down the rabbit hole when we got Wi-Fi about Buddhism and meditating and Zen and the no brain. Are you familiar with no brain when you're meditating?
Well, is that more the transcendental?
Oh, I don't know the details. May have to look that up.
Because it's like the pure consciousness.
It's when you're in no brain, you're having no thoughts. Does that make sense about meditation?
Yes, absolutely.
And I want to talk about this more.
Because there's like different types of meditation.
Oh, do tell.
Okay, mindfulness meditation is very much what we've talked about. The grounding, even just what we call breath is like anchoring yourself before you do a meditation.
Okay.
So that's going to be more for like looping thoughts, the mindfulness meditation. You kind of watch your thoughts, put them on a cloud, and watch them float away, right? The transcendental meditation is more of like a reduction in activity and calms the mind to a deeper, pure level of consciousness, which it takes a lot more practice. Like you almost want someone to teach you how to do that, because that's more of a deep calming. Whereas the focused meditation can be like for sports. A lot of times people use that, where if they stare at like a small dot, it's something like to get out of their head. They're looping or they're nervous or their anxiety is too strong.
This is amazing.
So there's different types, right? And there's even like yoga meditation, and there's guided meditation where someone's actually talking to you and kind of giving you a visual. And sometimes people just have like 2 words where it's, just following their breath. On the in, it's just, and on the external, it's be, just like just connecting. So the 2 kind of benefits of meditation is either to enhance calmness or to like reduce anxiety. The same with breath. Like if you were getting ready for a workout, you'd have a different pattern of breathing to kind of get your energy up.
I've never
than you
noticed.
would before bed to calm. So it's all about kind of the patterns and the rhythms in your nervous system and in your brain. And so I forgot what your question was.
I
you
don't
asked
even,
me about I know the
no brain.
So is that the same thing as they're talking about the third eye?
I literally just did this last week.
Well, there's this concept. There's, how we talk about the right and left hemisphere. There's like, I think the word is like perennial. You're the doctor. I feel like you know this word. It's a gland, way deep, but it sits right between the 2 hemispheres of the brain. I don't know what the name is.
The pituitary?
No, it's like pineal. Pineal gland. That's it. And apparently, like where it sits with birds and snakes, the light from the sun can still get to it, and so that they have called that like the third eye, which like sometimes when people meditate, it's like they're almost looking for that, or they're kind of going to that, because it represents, like in humans, our skull is like where that's located at the base of our skull. Like the sun is not going to hit that, but it's like it doesn't get too left or too right brain.
Oh
So that's
my
the
God,
no
it's
brain.
fascinating.
Isn't it amazing?
Oh, this is
And I only know
amazing.
this because of EMDR is like bilateral stimulation. And that's what we're doing on a whole different level. It's like a different processing,
Okay.
but it's a same effect of just kind of, if something's stuck on one side of the brain, whether it's like too high of an emotion, which is anxiety, or too much of a looping thought, that ability to connect with that almost neutral space is what we want from meditation if we just need a more calm kind of everyday life. And when I talk about neuroplasticity and the neural circuitry, the effects of those practices, even the breathing, even listening to calm before you're asleep, every time that wire gets longer, Christmas, then it's in your brain. So the next time you're in a crowded airport and you want to stay centered and calm and not get so overstimulated, that strand, that circuitry is already there. And that's what you can rely on without having to do the method, having to do the practice. But it's doing those practices, even in how we meet our emotions with self-talk. It's like all those emotional muscles or that neural circuitry it's getting stronger and further installed so that it's just there. And meditation and this work that we're talking about isn't about what you have more of, even though I'm talking about these longer strands. It's what isn't there anymore as intensely. So like the word escape for a vacation may just kind of shift where it's like, I'm going to explore something new with relief. But it's not like, I got to get out of here.
Yeah, the word escape, I think I've been a little sloppy, but what we just went to with the neuroplasticity and the meditation, that's actually, I think I didn't know that's where I wanted to get to because I don't want to ever go back to living for vacation.
Right.
I don't think that's a healthy way to live, that I have 5 weeks off a year and those are going to be the best weeks of my life, because when they're not, or who wants to just live 5 weeks a year?
Right.
So I want to be, again, I want to live in the now, but this is more than living in the now. I want to feel, because we talked about living in the now. You may only live truly in the now or be truly mindful, not even a whole hour a day, right? Because your work, I don't know, you can't be in the mindfulness all the time. But I feel like on the daily or the weekly, I could find a way to be happy in like real life. And I think part of that is meditation, even though I only did it. I did it
for sure.
Did it 3 times.
What'd you notice that you felt there? That was such an incredible place to go. And experience, like be so intentional about meditation in a place like that. Did you notice, and I assume you were practicing that around the clock, like what changed for you? What was different?
Well, I want to say that it does not escape me, back to the word escape. It does not escape me that I was on a trip of a lifetime. In the second week, I was without my kids. So I feel like it was easier to zen out because I wasn't hurting people and no one was complaining and blah, 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 blah. Everyone's safe. Like, it was kind of escaping.
And you said hurting, not hurting, right?
It's my country accent.
Okay, I wasn't hurting people.
I'm hurting them.
Hurting like cattle. Okay.
But this is what I noticed. Okay. I don't know what a moment of enlightenment is, but I do think I had one. I think I had one on that trip.
I love that.
I think I had I think I actually had 2 moments on that trip. And what I felt.
Can I just tell you before you even say it, I am so excited to hear you say that. Because that's, every time you say like, well, why do we have to do this? And what is this? Like that, the fact that you experience enlightenment.
I don't know.
No, but I think you did. You would not have used that word if you didn't. But I'm so happy for you. I'm so happy for you. Tell us.
Okay, so this isn't Buddhism. This is Shintoism, or the religion Shinto. So about half of people in Japan are Buddhists, and then half. This is rough estimate. So Shintoism is actually older than Buddhism in Japan, and it's the worship of nature. So we also explored that quite a bit on the second week. And we went to some Shinto temples, and I'm going to butcher the pronunciation of this word, but the torii gates, those red, I don't know if you know what I'm talking about. They're in every Asian referenced movie, cartoon, anything. They're very, very symbolic, which I now learned. It means when you go through these gates, you're entering a sacred place. So we went to a very famous Shinto temple in Kyoto, and there are, I think, 10,000 of these gates. when I was walking through these gates, I think it only lasted 5 to 10 seconds. Okay. But you're walking through these gates. It was a perfect day. I'm by myself and I see all these gates in front of me. And I think to myself, of all the people that have walked through those gates for thousands of years, these are thousands of years old, having the same problems on a different century scale, I guess.
That's beautiful.
And at the end of the day, all that really matters is love.
Mm-hmm.
5 seconds.
And that
5 seconds.
That just showed up for you.
I don't want to cry, but
No, you can.
Well, I was just thinking about how
it's so moving.
Oh, and then I also just had this feeling that I was on a whole new continent, and we're all really quite the same.
And the connection in the flight, not just through like places and geography, but during time.
Mm-hmm. But I did have a moment of pure, I guess, gratitude to be alive and how it's going to end pretty quickly.
Beautiful.
And that in 100 years there's going to be somebody else.
Mm-hmm. But when you think of like
walking
being
through,
in the now, that's what it is, right? It's now I'm right here.
Right. Yeah. The other time was when I sat down for lunch, our last day with my friend, and I cried. I just cried because I was just.
You're moved.
Well, I'm not going to lie. I was also glad to be back in a very fancy hotel. And we had an amazing lunch and just the view and the friend and just, the whole kind of thing. And I just had like an extreme powerful moment that I was so happy to have like my life.
Was there a physical sensation that like took over, or was it like a belief? I mean, the fact that you cried, there was something really happening.
Yeah, my friend was like, "You're crying into your salad." I don't think the only feeling I can describe is when, I know everybody knows this if you're a human, that feeling when, and it can happen quick. Sometimes it's building, but sometimes it just happens. I just felt the gush of tears. Like could not. It wasn't like I was even, like I just felt like a wash of like tears coming down my face. And like there was nothing I could have done that could have stopped those tears.
What did it mean to you that was happening?
Well, because I had been having all these, it was a very spiritual week, like I said, the thing that happened here. I'm not going to lie. I was just very grateful for the inner work that, I've done. And I don't think if I had done this trip even a year ago, I would have been able to get in touch with that. And I don't say this to like be like, oh, look at me. Because most days.
Oh, I don't hear that at all.
I suck. But I did have a feeling of I'm just so grateful for like the inner work, finding, I want to look into the meditation. But back to the word escape, I have not meditated since I got home.
What's funny, I was just about to say, if you think about an image, like a snapshot of that moment of what it felt like to you when you felt so moved and grateful, write it down, color it, do a collage, anything you can do with as many five senses as you can to kind of be able to reconnect to that. Keep it alive, because that's in you.
Right.
And
not just in me.
Like, well, I know, right. But in terms of your answer about like, I haven't even, because then you got back to the negative, like I suck. And then, no. We're going to put that on the cloud.
Oh my God, I did.
But reconnect to like the part of you that felt that. You may not feel that on a Monday morning going to work, but just the image of that moment will light up that circuitry again. It'll keep it alive.
Do you think that meditating helps neuroplasticity?
Oh, 100%. Yes.
So it's funny.
Not only do I think it, I have pictures of brain scans that prove that. I mean, absolutely.
How does one, okay, so the other question I have now that I'm thinking about more, I can't get off the neuroplasticity, but how does one know they're developing neuroplasticity? Like, how does one, oh my God, I've been watching like on my Instagram reels, they'll show people like with a CT scan, a non-contrast head CT, and they're like, look at this and how this is showing the growth. I'm like, that CT scan is not showing that. How do you think you're growing from the work that you're doing?
Okay, so let's say, just so to be scientific here,
please,
you can look on an fMRI and see where the blood flow and the activity, and I have pictures of this, of like where there's a lot of red, and I know that's just from EMDR stuff too. When there's a lot of like red versus yellow and blue and stuff in the brain scan, that's usually where trauma has been, or there's like a lot of emotion. Whereas like if that gets cleared out through meditation or EMDR, the after kind of same person brain scan is going to have, the red won't be there as much, or it will be more like symmetrical in how it's played out. So that is how we know, quote unquote, like what's happening in the brain
from a scientific level.
From a scientific
but not everyone's getting a functional MRI.
Correct. So if your question is like, if I am doing this, how do I know it's working? It's what's not there. You will feel calmer. You will feel, I would say the best way I could say this is more emotional regulation. So whether the emotion is positive or negative, meaning sad, fearful, that it is able to be regulated. You're able to meet that fear, let's say, with care and curiosity. Like, I wonder what this is telling me is important, rather than what's wrong with me, right? So it's every time I'm able to follow through with like that regulation with whatever is happening emotionally or cognitively or even situationally, externally, that's how we know.
I love, I think you've said this a couple of times now, I love this, what's not there.
Yep, I know. It's like when people come back from EMDR sessions, which is a lot of processing, we'll talk about that in depth because it's complicated, and I'll say, well, what'd you notice since our last session? And they'll say, well, last year, if I had gone to this, this rehearsal or something, I would have had a panic attack, but it just, I was okay. Like, it was like what wasn't there, it got kind of cleared out. God, so that they could have more, they could think. Remember how we said the higher the emotion, the lower the IQ?
For sure.
It's that balance.
Wow. This
look
is
at
honestly,
but think about the symmetry in the brain, like the balance. When is that overactive here or underactive here? Or it's like, it's integrated. And so you just feel an inner sense of peace, even when there's stress, that I can handle it. And that's not always conscious. It's just sometimes we just feel it in our body. And when you can cry and just let that, your body's releasing a lot of stress. And it could be, think about when you have a baby and you cry because of joy, and it's
stress
it's
cycle.
meaningful.
Okay, this is so cool because I was going to circle back. You mentioned write it down when you ask about like that feeling that I felt. So I also bought a journal.
Great.
I've not started it.
It's okay.
I bought it in Japan. I have it. I see it, but I haven't been able to muster up the courage, I think might be the right word, to actually write things down. Because once I write things down, it seems like, it's kind of what people say when you say something and put it out in the world. You
manifest it.
Yeah, you manifest it. But apart from me not starting my journaling yet, I know if I ask you if journaling probably builds neuroplasticity or
it depends. Well, go ahead.
But what you just said, it's not there. I was a big journaler, dear diary, growing up, probably from like 13 to high school. So I have a memory of my first year of high school. I was a cheerleader. I did not make the boys varsity basketball. God, I might cry right now.
Good.
Devastated.
Yeah.
Okay. Devastated. So I remember going home and writing in my journal, and because I was already a journaler. Okay. Now I remember going back to my parents' home. My parents threw nothing away. My journal was still there, and I read it. I was probably like in my mid-20s, maybe a little bit younger. And I read my journal from high school, and I thought to myself, oh my God, this is the dumbest. I don't feel any of that anymore. Like, this doesn't make any sense. And threw it away. Like, dockets, like, could be a Lifetime movie. So I threw it away because nothing that I had written seemed important. Do you think that was good, though? Because it wasn't there. I didn't have those feelings.
Do you remember how it felt after you wrote in your journal as a 15-year-old who was devastated?
I don't.
Did it bring you relief?
I can't say that I specifically remember.
Well, because I think the whole developmental thing of 15, I think sometimes journaling, we're developing that frontal lobe and putting things into language. It's like what meditation is doing. It's taking an emotion, midbrain, connecting it to the frontal lobe. So it's like shifting focus and where that's all happening. And we call that processing. It may be that at the time, it's how you either cleared some of that out, or you kind of could put words to what it was that you were going through.
Say that again about processing. What is it?
So if you were feeling devastated as a 15-year-old and your frontal lobe prefrontal lobe hasn't fully developed because that.
Oh, I'm
Down
not
till
sure
25.
mine still has.
But it's like where you were experiencing all of that pain. And who knows like what words you put to that. Like, I'll never be blank or whatever, right? I'll never.
I lost. I mean, I thought I would die.
So, but by journaling it shifted what was happening in that midbrain to that frontal lobe because you're using language and words and you're actually even visualizing.
Okay, so we're going midbrain to frontal lobe.
Right. So we're shifting from like the emotional, like I'm going to just use this word, the trauma of what you were feeling inside.
It was trauma.
Yes, I know. That's exactly because what you were saying that it meant to you. It's not the experience itself that's trauma. It's what it means to us about what's happening. And if that devastating my life is over feeling, that's trauma feeling, right?
It was traumatic.
You were integrating that where you were experiencing that with a different part of your brain that could be more logical or put words to it, linear. And that's sort of the accessing, that was neuroplasticity.
God, that's so cool.
Which is why you look at it now and it doesn't make sense. But if you can look at that actually with like gratitude, I feel like the throwing away could look two ways. It could be like, that's ridiculous, and we could shame it.
That's what I did. That's what ding, 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 ding. I shamed it.
Okay, here's the link. I'm going to refocus. It's okay. You can still link this now. When you think about throwing it away, look at what you could let go of. Look at what you could release back into the world and say, I don't have to carry this around anymore. So what's not there? Like, do we want to focus on shame that we are escaping from? Or do we want to say, look at what I get to let go of now?
Well, this is all baby steps. So I journaled, but then I
Baby
shamed
steps
myself.
are awesome. No. But it's not a but. It's a learning. It's an opportunity to how we talk to the parts of ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And that 15-year-old girl,
right?
You wouldn't have shamed her. She was hurting.
I did though. I think.
And if you're how old are you now? 47.
Yeah, I just had a birthday.
I know.
Yeah.
So if the 47-year-old self said to that 15-year-old girl, yeah, that did hurt, and guess what? It's not going to always be like that. It's going to work out. That's very different than, you idiot. Why would you feel that way?
Right.
You would not have talked to yourself that way.
No, I wouldn't. And nor would, I mean, I have a 15-year-old right now.
Oh.
So that's, God, that's really hitting hard, about thinking about that. I mean,
If her 15-year-old was hurting, would you be shaming him, or would you say, yeah, life seems really hard right now. I've been there.
I would. No, I would.
And it gets better.
Right. No, I definitely would. I definitely would. So that's so fascinating about the journal, though, because it is crazy the memory I have of writing that day that I didn't make top A cheerleading squad to the day. I remember the day I also threw it away. I remember both of those days because it's in my childhood bedroom home, which is still looks exactly the same. So I have such vivid memories of both of those things. So somehow they both really impacted me. And I'm wondering if I remember throwing it away because even at the time, I knew there was something not great about the way that I was feeling about when I threw it away that I didn't even know to recognize. But I remember it so well.
Well, and memories with your five senses, like the smell of your old room or the feel of your bedspread or whatever, like that is all midbrain.
No, I go in that bedroom now and I'm like, I remember when I came in here and like,
Right. It could be the smell of your old shampoo that you used. It's like you get a whiff of it and then bam, that memory's right there.
Well, it's probably still there.
But it's your five senses are where is also midbrain. And that's where memories are stored of pain, emotion. So when you say, when I held that journal, the discomfort you felt was like, I got to get rid of this, was still like the link to the memory of the pain. But that's why we don't have to shame that memory. We can say it's safe to let go of that pain that was associated with that memory.
Ugh, I love this. I mean, honestly, this is so great. Just thinking about the ways to deal, because I'm still in many, many ways, I'm still my 15-year-old self.
That's not a bad thing.
I mean, I've definitely grown, but like I still feel her a lot.
I know. And that is so important.
Is that healthy?
Yes. Your 9-year-old self, your 26-year-old self, they're all parts of you where you experience a lot of really big things.
God, I saw
and
this.
So I think the acceptance of those parts, like even though, I mean, you are the adult now that has the ability to take care of those parts in ways that she didn't have when she was 15 or 9. But to bring her along the journey with you is so important.
Oh my God. Like, I mean, obviously I'm around a plethora of teenagers right now with, my boys and their friends and all of that. And I saw a teenage girl walking in high heels that I could just tell she wasn't comfortable walking in them. And literally, I wanted my heart energy to go to this girl and like swoop her up and give her because I literally, even right now, I'm like, I just feel that in my soul how hard it is, like growing up and just how you want to look and the clothes that you wear and you're so uncomfortable. And
Sarah, you know what I would love for you to practice is giving that heart energy. And when you said that, I could it was like the Care Bear heart thing. Like I could just see this channel of love. Give that to yourself more.
Okay.
Okay. Even if you think about your 19-year-old self or your 15-year-old self, like you're so good at giving that to other people. You're so, I mean, it's so real. I mean, you just did it perfectly. But I would love to see what happens when you are reflecting on a memory or even a curiosity about why did I do that? Think of that heart energy and that curiosity when you are reflecting.
I'll think about it.
I know. Or just notice it.
I will.
And I like that you said baby steps. That's exactly how this all works. This is, and just being a little bit aware every day will make a difference.
Well, what a crazy talk, to be honest. I had no idea where this was going to take us.
Me neither.
I love that this took us to a lot of neuroplasticity. And I really want to ask you, what are some things we can all do on the daily to feel happy in our day-to-day lives? Maybe happy is not the right word, but feel like we're maybe escaping, whether it be meditation or I don't know. What can we do to feel like we're doing something to help us not need to feel like we need to run off and escape?
Right. So the word I would use is regulation. Right? How would we feel more regulated? Which is sort of that calmness in your nervous system.
Okay.
Like, right? Calm, not in a way of like laissez-faire, nothing matters, but more of whatever's happening, I can handle it.
Yeah, I definitely don't mean laissez. I'm not laissez-faire at all.
And I think even having happiness is, I mean, that's a whole episode in itself. Like that's why
as soon as I said it, I'm like, no, just more like that internal, almost,
peace.
yes.
And I think so much of how that shifts is language.
Okay.
How we talk to ourselves with care, curiosity, right? The C's. And we're connecting to those parts of ourselves that feel fear, just noticing it. Now, there's other things with breath work, and I know that's not what you want to hear, but that does the calming breath, but just practicing that, just taking a pause for 3 minutes a day.
I went straight to the hardest meditation.
And a lot of people do that, and they're like, nope, not going to do that, not going to do it. But that's where just even the cool thing about the research in the brain is that even new meditators, even 3-minute meditators, there's shift in the brain activity. So, I mean, you don't have to be a Buddhist monk to be affected by this.
Okay, I had like my friend and I, we had a few minutes. We're like, we should become Buddhist monks. And our guide was like, you ladies are definitely not becoming Buddhist monks. Even me in my element of, to the sun, I'm cannot.
But I love that you like even had the desire to like imagine that, because that means it was working.
I was like, I'm ready to shave my head. I'm like,
but and I think just even if you are like daydreaming about that, walking through the gates, the word enlightenment, like that, if you did that every day for a week, just imagining it, just visualizing it, that's meditation.
So apart from like thinking about the care and the curiosity, what if I ask you for 2 activities? I mean, journaling?
Okay, journaling is a little controversial here.
Ooh,
because it depends.
I love a controversy.
It depends on how we're journaling.
Okay.
Like a gratitude journal, great.
Okay.
Like we pick 3 things. I actually had to do this in graduate school. It was a class, the first day of the class, he said, okay, go home, buy a journal just for this. And every night, we did it for 30 days.
Oh my God.
Every night, write 3 bullet points. It should take less time than brushing your teeth. And just write down like today, 3 things you're grateful for. And the more specific they are, the more this works. So instead of saying my health, it could be my feet didn't hurt today, or my headache went away. But he said, if you're going to sit across a room from a client who's grieving and you're talking to her about gratitude, you have to know in your heart and soul that why this works and how this works. And, it's what happens is if you do it in a ritual, you start to subconsciously look for things in the day, because at the end of the day, you're going to be writing those down.
So a gratitude journal, maybe that's a good way to start.
That's a great way to start. And you know what I've noticed? When my husband and I moved back to Louisville, I moved to Louisville, and I was unpacking boxes. This is before we had kids. I was just married. I found that from graduate school.
Oh.
And it was like something little like, that my kitten was big enough to jump on the bed today. And I remember sitting in that apartment, like literally writing that down, because I was like, I don't know what to write today. And then that happened. And I was like, all right. But then the second I read that, I was like, I do remember that bedspread. And I remember the smell of that apartment.
Yeah.
And I remember, and so it all came back, and I thought, gosh, how cool would this be to find this of my great-great-grandmother, right?
Oh, wow.
Or like, heaven forbid something happened to me, and my mother found this. And it was all just gratitude. It was not the 15-year-old breakup or her, it was like,
oh, wow.
that's just what this is. And so even rereading old stuff, it'll make you laugh. It'll be like, it can be the smell of laundry detergent. It does not have to be this profound gratitude.
Oh,
But
I love
it starts to make you notice those things each day. And
Oh
it's
my God,
30
that's
days
beautiful.
of that really does shift the brain.
Oh my God, a 30-day gratitude journal. Maybe we'll
Have
do
you ever
a
seen
30-day
She's all about this. I mean,
No.
But and that's why I don't want to like overuse that. But because we had to do that in graduate school,
Well,
I remember that being so effective.
I love Oprah, but I've never heard of this.
Well, and they make them now where you can, I think there's some great ones for teenagers that we're kind of talking about. My daughter has, it's like 3 lines a day.
Oh my God, that makes me think of Jocelyn and give me 3.
Oh, they're giving it.
Yeah.
3 words.
Just little tiny things, huh?
Yeah, and I think it's the intention in it. So we can say I'm in the now, but that is being in the now.
Really cool.
And you can make categories about like what the gratitude is. Is it
Right.
about family? Is it about relationships? Is it about nature? Is it about, not to make it too structured, but if it's not dismissive gratitude where, oh, well, you should be grateful for such and such diagnosis because some people have it worse. Like, it's not that kind of thing. It's just about in your own personal life, what you're connecting to.
Wow. Cool.
That and breath, just slow breath, just noticing, even just following your breath when it comes in and out. You said 2 things, so I'm giving you 2 things. But that is a way of kind of getting out of the frontal lobe, which is the words and the gratitude, and into that like body, which I think is also grounding.
Yeah, it
So,
does all relate.
It's connected.
Super cool. Connected. Love it.
Connected. Gosh, okay.
I love that.
That was really, I mean,
Yeah, that
I
was
feel
cool.
there's so much more I want to hear about your trip. but-
Well, there's a
Another
lot
day.
more I want to hear about the brain. So
Okay.
until next time.
Good to see you.
You too.
Thanks so much for listening to us today on Connections in Flight. Would love to hear back from you. Please feel free to email us, leave feedback or comments.
We'll be back next week with a new word. If you want to discover more about us, please find us in our socials, and all the links are in the show notes.
Please be advised that the information discussed on this podcast is not professional therapy. If you are triggered or activated, please don't be afraid to seek professional help.
Ample. Hee hee.
Is this thing on?
Yeah, that's on. Don't touch that.